absolutely slut shaming. They tried to disguise it as care and concern. I don't really believe in Western therapy and pharmaceuticals, so this is the ways that I am working to heal through my wounds and my trauma. I have never been so terrified. My body was just like rigor mortis, and it was very stiff all of a sudden. And then that's when they were like, "Is she okay? Is she okay?" And then Sal's was like, "Don't touch her. She's going somewhere right now. Don't interrupt this." And that was literally when I saw death. This time it comes, I start vomiting. I can't hold it, and it was so violent. It will burn very intensely for about 5 minutes. And how do I benefit from these drops that are gonna freaking burn my eyes? This is my new friend, Mirella from Brazil. We found a vegan restaurant by our hostel, and I was just joking that, like, wow, we get a whole menu today. Like, not just a few vegan options, but like an entire menu. We're queens. So this is wild. I've had the most amazing lunch with Mirella, and you know, we talked and connected, and she's a very spiritual person, as am I, and she's here to do ayahuasca ceremony. She's doing one tonight and tomorrow, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I've never done ayahuasca, but I've been wanting to do it to just further my healing journey, and I'm really excited. You know, I came on this trip with the intention to recharge, but not really any other plans. And, you know, I was like, okay, I want to party and I want a beach, kind of having that in mind. But, you know, living in Los Angeles, there's no shortage of parties. I'm not starved for parties. I can party anytime I want. And my solo travels have really become about being open to new experiences when they present themselves. And this opportunity presented itself. And at first I was like, no. And then I was like, actually, I'm going to leave. Let's do it.
Cerimônia, ela, eu quero ir pela primeira vez. And we are going to Eagle Fly tomorrow. Oh, wonderful.
Here we go. I'm on my way to the ayahuasca ceremony tonight with Mirella. It's hard for me to say her Brazilian name, very beautiful name. And I'm ready. She has prepared me. One thing I really liked was she told me all the things to kind of bring. I have my bag of supplies here. And one thing I liked, she was like, dress up, because I was thinking, oh, I should probably dress down for this. And she was like, no, you're presenting yourself to the gods, to nature, dress up. So it's like, yeah, dressing up like you're going on a date. Obviously I did lighter eye makeup tonight, because I'm not afraid. I'm going to be crying my eyes out most likely. Probably be barfing, it's part of it, because it's the purge. And I didn't want my vanity to get in the way of the experience of like fully letting everything out, because this is to open up and to get in touch with myself, to heal from some of the traumas I've had and the bad things, and to move forward. So we're going out to the jungle, and it's going to be an all-night experience. It starts at 8. We're getting picked up now. It's about 7 o'clock. I'm being myself. I got my icy watch band on, sparkly, and I love that. I love that aspect of it, that it's a positive thing. It's a ceremony of a celebration, that we're doing something that's going to open us up and connect to the gods, to nature. Mirella was telling me that, Mexico is magical. The Mayans ruins here, and being out in the jungle, it's like there's like legit magic, I guess. And I'm just really excited to experience this, and continue on my healing journey of being the person I want to be. And she told me to set my intentions tonight before I drink the tea, of kind of what I want to go for. And I have them. I'm not going to share that with you guys. I'm going to keep that private for me, but it's going to be wild. So we just got back from our ayahuasca ceremony. It is 11:40 in the morning. We left last night at 7 p.m. I am absolutely exhausted, if you can tell, but good things happened, and I will give a proper update of all the weird shit that went down and the emotions that happened later when I've refreshed a bit. Next, tiny little market. Oh my god, where am I right now? To the car. Oh my god. Wild. Like.
The field.
go. Ready, listo. Dos,
Huesos aire 3.
Hola.
Hola, buenas noches. Parecía que no tenía ni...
It doesn't have any hair. It must be a baby. Oh my god, there's a bunch of chickens in here. This is so weird. Hi, honey. Hi, other honey. This is so weird. Hollywood is here.
I'm trying to explain, but it's very difficult.
One of the strangest things I've ever done.
Bien, ¿tú? Qué bueno.
So the slut shaming. We get there, it's pre-ceremony, they're still setting up, and these women come up to me one at a time. They were kind of from the fellowship of this group, and they all knew each other, and they come up and they start saying to me, they all spoke I think Portuguese and Spanish, because it was like a mix. And I think one of them was apparently even from Los Angeles. They were a lot of the women in the previous story that I just shared. And they come up and they start talking about my shorts. And then first they're like, well, you're going to be cold. And I was like, no, it's okay. And Mirella told me to bring a blanket. And mind you, also, I had my sweatshirt on at the time. So I can only imagine the reaction if I actually showed up like this. They would have freaking died, because it was absolutely slut-shaming. They tried to disguise it as care and concern, but that's not what this was. You know, and unfortunately this is nothing new for me, of, you know, women ganging up. So first it's like one, and then it's a couple, and then they all come. And Mirella was standing next to me, and Saus, the man, Mirella's friend that drove us, that Saus was also the one that looked after me in the ceremony when some parts of it got a little scary for me because I was going very deep. You know, they stood there and they were like, this is weird, you know, and I did my best to keep my cool, because it's like, you know, I am a stranger in this environment. I already, you know, had my own nerves about it because I just didn't really know what to expect. And they're ganging up on me, and like I keep telling them, I'm like, I have a blanket that I can cover, I'll be fine, I won't be cold. And they're like, maybe we can get you one of our skirts, maybe a sister would let you borrow a skirt. And then it got very weird, and this is where it was very apparent what this was really coming from. They start talking about, but you're so beautiful, you're powerful, but it wasn't in like a positive way. It was like I was being shamed for these things and punished for them. And so, you know, they're ganging up on me and all completely bombarding me. And then another one, a woman that was kind of co-hosting the ceremony later on, with the padre who was wonderful. This woman, I think Mirella said she was the one that was from Los Angeles. She starts harping on too, of like, well, you're supposed to do an orientation, and had you done the orientation, you would have been prepared for this. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, well, you know, we've got time. Like, why, instead of being so negative about it, she could have just said, like, hey, let's get you an orientation, you know, and just prepare you so that you have a good experience. And it just wasn't that. My intuition was firing very hard that this was none of the words that they were saying, and it was rather coming from somewhere else. you know, a place of insecurity, especially because too, when they say, well, we're not judging you. It's like, yes, you are. Don't gaslight me. Yes, the fuck you are. So I run back and I get my blanket to show them because I'm like, is this like a language barrier? Like my intuitions are telling me that's not what this is about, but let me just show them and like tie it around me like a toga. Like, look, I'm covered. You know, because they did even say a word like modesty. This is a sacred ceremony, and like the men. And it reminded me of in middle school in America, the dress codes where they would measure your finger straps, and it was all about you can't distract the men. How about rather you just teach the men how to fucking behave around a woman's body, because this vessel that I'm in is part of the reason why we are all here. Women are the ones that, you know, give birth, give life. And it's like, I will not be shamed for my body. So moving on to the night, there's that. So we'll move on to the rest of the night. Let's keep watching from Ayahuasca experience. But that put a sour note on the night that I had to work very hard to overcome. It's kind of boring. Just waiting for them to set up. Trying to nap. It's a couch. It's like concrete, these pillows. And this is tobacco?
And seeds.
And seeds?
And meat.
Okay. And then you put it in this little device?
Yeah.
And then how does it work?
Okay, switch it off.
Fazer os ritos de passagem pelas estações. Então estamos aqui ainda vivenciando o momento de outono. Nossas estações são medidas pela rueda medicinal, que hablamos de 8 estações, né? Então aqui estamos na primavera, caminhando por uma outra.
That is an obstacle.
Su progresso
Your progress,
personal
personal
e espiritual.
and spiritual.
Então tu vienes nesse momento e queima!
So you arrive in this moment and you burn!
Porque é assim que ele se expressa, o poder destrutor da natureza se expressa assim.
Because this is how nature expresses itself.
Como vulcano
Like a volcano
que causa uma destruição,
that causes a destruction,
mas que causa também uma construção.
but also causes a construction.
No more filming from the rest of the night of the ceremony for 2 reasons. One, I was asked not to film, and 2, there's no way I could have because I was so off my face. I have never been that high in my life. It reminded me a lot of what Jared Watson from Dirty had said in the interview I did with him last summer, because ayahuasca is essentially DMT, which I had never done. This was my first time doing it, and it was just crazy. It was terrifying. I have never been so terrified in my life when it hit, and I guess that was my personal journey of the things that I needed to work through. So the come up it started to come up, and I started getting a light show, and I just had to lay down and shut my eyes because it was just so intense. And like I said, I've never been that high in my life, and I just had to meditate through it and tell myself, you know, it's okay. You've done a lot of drugs. You're just high. You're just super freaking high. The music starts. They kind of would start and stop the music and the chanting periodically. We'd have moments of silence, and then they'd have moments of the music. And some of the people would get up and celebrate and dance because, you know, there were ranges of ayahuasca, you know, experience where people that have, like Mirella, had done it many, many, many times. So for her, it was just a purely joyous experience. Because she's, you know, accessed a lot of that stuff already. So the light show starts, and it's just the most like technicolor light show going on, and it's like going to the beats of the music, and I felt really happy. And Mirella's sitting next to me, and she's singing and she's chanting, and then all of a sudden she brings out this little shaker thing, and then all of a sudden everyone's got these little freaking shakers, and they're shaking them to the music. I'm like, she's in a chair next to me, and I'm laying on these pillows on the floor, and I open my eyes and I see this, and then when I opened my eyes, it was too much sensation, so I had to shut them again. And then the next phase of it comes, and the ayahuasca hits harder. And for me, where it took me was I was absolutely fucking terrified. I have never felt so scared in my life. And what Saus was telling me, talking to him about it this morning about my experience, those were the things that I needed to access. And for me, I found my inner child. I was speaking with my inner child of a lot of my childhood traumas. And I just remember being so scared. And then there was one point, it gets harder and harder. For the first round, we did 2 rounds of the ayahuasca. The first round, I made it and I did not throw up. But it was incredibly fucking terrifying. And so I was just like laying on my side, kind of in a somewhat fetal position, because I was also cold. And just, really just trying to keep my eyes shut and so then it hits even harder, and I feel like I'm about to vomit. And so I crawl over, like where I was laying there, we were outside, I crawl over to like these bushes, because that's as far as I can make it. I was literally crawling. There was no standing. I could barely fucking see because I was so high, and like the light shows and the hallucinating. So I crawl over, and like I feel like I'm gonna vomit, and then I don't. And so I crawl back to my pillows when coast is clear, not gonna puke. And I crawl back to my pillows, and Mirella looks at me, and I look at her, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." And like I sat there, and then I remembered this moment. I accessed death. I literally thought I was dying. I thought this was it. And the moment was, Saus told me afterwards what had happened, because I remembered this, but I wasn't quite clear on it. So Saus tells me that the padre comes over to me, and I see him standing above me, and I remember him saying, "What's your name?" And I couldn't speak, and Saus kind of being my guardian for the evening, because he was on the other side of me. Mirella was on one side, and she was having her very pleasant experience, and Saus was on the other, and he was kind of like a little bit of my watcher. He said that I sat up, opened my eyes, and it was just like, and then he said like my body was just like rigor mortis, and it was very stiff all of a sudden. And then that's when they were like, "Is she okay? Is she okay?" And then Saus was like, "Don't touch her. She's going somewhere right now. Don't interrupt this." And that was literally when I saw death. And what Saus interpreted it as, and Mirella interpreted it as later, what they told me that means is it's something inside of me dying so that I could be reborn and let that go and move forward. So I get through it, and I come to, and then the drug has stopped. The drug has worn off, and it has stopped. And I sit up, and I was like, "Oh, thank God it's over." And then they're like, "How was it?" And I was like, "That was absolutely fucking terrifying." And I go to eat like maybe a tortilla chip, because I don't know, I had a hunger. And then Saus is like, don't eat that, you're gonna vomit. And it was because we were ready for round 2. We were gonna do another round of freaking ayahuasca just as this one had worn off. So we go and we get in the line, fill our little cup up. It was a liquid. Unfortunately, I didn't do any picture or video of it. And like I go up, and one of the other guys that was kind of, one of my watchers, caretakers as well, that was administering the ayahuasca in these little cups, I say to him, he's like, "How," at first I was like, they say you don't have to do it again if you don't want to. And at first I was like, absolutely not, I'm not doing that again. And then I was like, all right, maybe just a little. I said to myself, I was like, I've now experienced this once, like let's just do it again, and I'll just do a smaller dose this time, because I'm here. When is this ever gonna happen again? And so I go up, and I tell him, he's like, "How was it?" And I was like, "It was absolutely terrifying. That was one of the scariest things I've ever felt. Like, I have never felt terror like that." And I was like, poquito this time, por favor. And so I take it, and then I say to myself, I'm like, you know what? Again, I experienced it once. How bad could it be the second time around? I'm here. Let me be brave. So I go back and I get in the line, and I didn't drink the little I had because I wanted to keep the measurement, because they were very like mindful about measuring it. And I say to him, I say, you know what, actually this time, give me the full dose. I'm here, I'm feeling brave, I'm gonna do it. So he looks at it very carefully and measures it and gives me a full dose, and I drink it. And then, you know, it all starts again, the chanting and everything, and I'm sitting there and I'm fine. I'm feeling somewhat refreshed after, you know, the first experience of like, okay, I got my sea legs of what this kind of feels like. It was terrifying, but it can't get worse than that. That was literally, I saw death. Like, I literally thought I was dying when the Padre was standing above me. It was fucking insane. So it starts to hit again. The light show starts in my eyes, the visuals, and I was like, oh God, I need to lay down. And then this time it comes. I start vomiting. I can't hold it, and it was so violent. So I again make my way, and I crawl into the bushes of, you know, just a few feet from where I was, because that's as much as I could move. And you know, I start vomiting violently, and it's just everything. And what they say that is it's you purging something that needed to come out of your body. It's like, and so this time, the second dose of ayahuasca, you know, the vomiting is there, but it wasn't as terrifying as the first one. I did have some fear, you know, a lot of visuals, and then this time I fell asleep for a while again. I think I had fallen asleep in the first one, because apparently, like, what DMT is like what your body produces, like when you die or whatever, or when you sleep or something. Oh my God. And so then they start the next part of the ceremony where we're around the fire, and Sal's like encourages me. He's like, come. And we're around the fire, and they're doing a ceremony of like you're putting a stick in, and it's burning your addictions, it's burning the negative things, and it's like symbolic. You put the stick in, and then it does that. And then, you know, at one point I start to get like dizzy and sleepy again, and I just can't stand anymore. So I'm like kneeling before the fire because I didn't want to leave this part of the ceremony. And I'm kneeling, and because it's all I can manage, and like that fucking cunt, the one co-leading the ceremony that was giving me shit about my shorts and just being, you know, not welcoming to me at all, is like, you need to stand up or go back to your place. And it's like, she could have been nicer about it. Whereas like Sal says to me, he's like, come on, you can do this, just stand up. And he's like, you got this, you know, in a supportive, loving way. So I stand, and it's like, I'm kind of like nodding out, and I'm just like, oh God, you know, but this was an important part of the ceremony that I wanted to participate in. And so we do that, and then that's over, and we kind of go back to our places again, and I'm just like nodding in and out, you know, I fall asleep again for a while, and then that's the rest of it. And then we get to a part where they had talked about this in the beginning. They have these eye drops, these fucking eye drops, and they don't sugarcoat. They're like, these are gonna burn intensely for about 5 minutes. And so you know, they're optional, but I asked Sals, I said, Sals, you know, one, is this going to cause any permanent damage to my eyes? And he says, no, it's not. He says, as long as you don't have contacts and you haven't had laser eye surgery within the last year, you're fine, but it will burn very intensely for about 5 minutes. And I said, well, what does it do? How do I benefit from these drops that are going to freaking burn my eyes? And he's like, it gives you more clarity through your third eye, that you see things more clearly. And I was like, okay, I'm very in touch with my third eye from my meditations that I learned in Cambodia. And so I'm like, yes, let's do it. I want my third eye to be clearer. And so I do it, and like I'm watching one of the other lady that was being kind of a cunt to me. She's doing it, and she's like being all dramatic about it. I mean, I don't want to lessen her experience. It was painful, but for me, I just breathed through it and meditated, and just was like, God, I've been through worse shit than this burning eye drops. So I make it through the burning eye drops. You know, I get some napkins out of my bag to like, you know, wipe my eyes, because just it felt a little sticky because of the mascara I had and everything, and I was like, I didn't want the makeup getting in my eyes. So I don't wipe it because they said like don't touch your eyes, but like I kind of just kept them shut, and then, you know, let it burn through. And then when I felt comfortable to open my eyes, I just dabbed underneath with like the, you know, like that. And then yeah, And that was it. And and then we did the tobacco ceremony with that thing I posted earlier in the stories. And that was like, you weren't inhaling the tobacco, you smoke some of it and exhale it. And what you were exhaling was all of the negative experiences. And then it was a ceremony that we offer the freaking tobacco to the fire, and you put it in the fire. So it was wild. I mean, it was a lot of religion, which I don't identify with as much. Mirella told me that, you know, this experience will stick with me forever because that sacred plant is now in my body. And, oh my God, excuse me. It absolutely will. I highly recommend it if you, you know, want to heal from things and you want to be brave. It is intense. It's definitely intense. But, you know, for me, I don't really believe in Western therapy and pharmaceuticals. So this is the ways that I am working to heal through my wounds and my trauma. You know, and it's just freaking wild. Like, it's crazy. Couple more things I wanted to share from my ayahuasca experience that I did not. A couple things that were funny. So when we first got to the ceremony and like everyone was kind of finding their places, Mirella was helping me find a place where I would feel comfortable. So we were kind of going around. It was like it's kind of like everyone's like marking their spot, like camping or whatever. And you know, it was really full because we kind of were late to get there because we were like relaxing inside. And we go up next to this lady where we kind of find a spot, and Mirella was like, oh, how about here? Because it was closer to the fire. And this lady that it was going to be next to, she was like freaking out. It was her first time doing ayahuasca as well, but she was not quite as like chill as I was. And she's like, I need my space because I don't know if I'm going to be vomiting or shitting myself. I need my space. And I just like fucking lost it. Like, this woman was like shitting yourself? Like. And then another thing that kept cracking me the fuck up, I feel terrible for laughing, but also I don't because it happened to me as well. Like, you know, 20 minutes after a woman would take their ayahuasca dose, you would hear people just in the woods just violently throwing up, like, and I was like laying there, and you're hearing this music and it's all nice, and then you hear people just violently vomiting, and you just could not keep it together. And then, you know, when it was my turn and I was vomiting, honestly, I was like trying to be as quiet as possible about it because I didn't want to be that person. But some people were just extremely loud with like aggressive vomiting. You know, and then one last thing, this part wasn't funny. You know, when the ceremony was over this morning, the woman that was like shaming me and being really rude to me, that was kind of co-hosting the ceremony, she comes up to me afterwards and like grabs me and was like, come here, I want to give you a hug. And I like shook her off and I was like, no thank you. And she just was not respecting my boundaries. Like, I walked off because I just didn't want to be around her, and that's me protecting my energy. That you were not good to me, so you are not allowed to have my energy. I will not give you my energy, and that's a boundary that I'm learning to set now, of being aware when someone doesn't make me feel good, they just can't have my energy. And so, you know, I went away to get her to calm down, like leave me alone. And then, you know, I was kind of back in the area again, and she was like, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, no, thank you. And she's like, why? And I said, because you can't have my energy. And I walked away again.